create a demo song, let's first record a few clips. Let's start with our drum track first. Next up, let's record a simple synth lead sequence. Now let's add a little bassline sequence. And finally, let's record a short piano clip. Very good. With these 4 clips we can build a small song. Normally you would have access to all 36 clips of LoopA, but let's start small. You can enter song mode via the Shift menu. The horizontal axis shows all pattern parameters. The vertical axis shows all patterns in your song. The first 6 columns represent LoopA's 6 tracks. You can easily mute and unmute them using the upper row keys. Use the scene and select encoder to navigate your cursor. Here I reduced the volume of clip 4a, our drum track, to about 50%. Let's listen to it. The tempo is a bit low. Navigate the cursor to the right and use the data encoder to change the BPM of this pattern. Sounds better. Let's play back this drum clip again at full volume. Go to the next pattern via the scene encoder and add the same clip to track 4. Let's listen again. First the drums are played back silently and now at full volume. To create a smooth volume transition, we can create a volume fade. This pattern has a length of 32 steps, so let's create a volume fade of 16 steps, effectively using half of the pattern to increase the volume. Let's test how this works. The volume fade will start now. Very nice. Let's add another pattern to our song. LoopA's pattern list will grow automatically whenever you define a new pattern at the bottom of the list. For this one, let's add our bass clip, which is on track 3, to our existing drum clip and listen. Sounds good. If we had recorded more variations of, for example, the drums, we could change the scene of our drum track 4. But here let's just remove the drum clip and introduce the synth lead. You can move your cursor to any pattern and press run stop to hear the song from that position. Let's hear the last 2 patterns. And the next pattern. Sounds good. What to do next? Let us introduce our piano clip and just the bass. Let's have a listen. Very nice. For the next pattern we want to add our drums again. And for the final pattern, let's unmute all of our used 4 tracks. Let's scroll back to the start and have a listen. When song mode is active, it will scroll the screen to the pattern that is currently being played. When you move your cursor, this will revert back and the screen will jump to your cursor position. Now all together. Very nice, but let's introduce some further variations. Song mode also offers advanced pattern manipulation options. Let's use the live transposition feature here. If you move your cursor to the TR column, you can modify the live transposition setting for that pattern. This is equivalent to using your upper right live encoder in the normal LoopA screens. Let's set a live transposition value of +1 for this pattern and have a listen. good, but not perfect. We forgot to add the synth lead clip in this pattern, so let's fix this. While we are at it, we could add another pattern with all clips playing back, but this time transposed down by -2 steps. As a final note for live transposition to work, make sure that your tracks have this feature enabled on the track screen. Finally, let's add the piano clip as an ending clip to our song and have a listen. Up by 1. Now we're going down by 2. Not too bad for our first song. Let's have a look at pattern lengths. The length column allows for fine granular pattern length control. You can adjust the pattern length by single step increments. That means patterns could also end in the middle of a measure. The repetitions column is linked to the length column. Changing its value will look at the currently configured clips and multiply the entered value with the longest clip length. The special setting Auto will always look at the active clips and repeat them exactly once. It will automatically update the pattern length when you change the clips in the pattern. The RST or restart column allows to relaunch a pattern from its start position. If the restart flag is set, all pattern clip positions will be reset to 0 when this pattern is played. This function can be important if you want to avoid jumping into the middle of some clips in a pattern. This could happen if you have a predecessor pattern which is shorter than a clip in the follow-up pattern. LoopA's default behavior is non-restart, which is equal to what happens when you change the scenes with the scene encoder during normal playback. Best to demonstrate this in an example. Our piano clip in track 1 has a length of 64 steps. Our drum pattern in track 4 has 32 steps. Let's enable the reset flag and listen to the result. As you can hear, the second pattern started at the beginning of the piano track. When we remove this restart flag, this situation changes. Now the piano track started in the middle, which could be what we want, but it's good to have the option to force a restart. Let's have a look at tempo and tempo fades. For this we are using our known drum pattern and we set an initial speed of 100 BPM. This is quite slow. For the next pattern we use the same drum pattern and we use a speed of 200 BPM. To make things a bit more complex, we set the length of this pattern to 2 repeats, which equals to 64 steps. And also we will set a tempo fade that uses 64 steps to fade in, making full use of the 2 repeats of this clip for the tempo fade. Let's have a listen. Now it is quite slow, and now on this pattern it's steadily increasing its speed until it reaches 200 BPM at the end of the pattern. So LoopA has this feature where a pattern is played back only with a given probability, and this probability roll of dice is basically executed when the pattern is entered. So let's just configure a simple song to test this out. So our first pattern is basically using the first track clip in scene A. You could always use other scenes, but we had only recorded the first scene, so it makes most sense to use scene A. Second pattern uses the second track, third pattern uses the third track, fourth pattern uses the fourth track, always clips in scene A. And now we reduce the playback probabilities. Note our first pattern has a probability of 100%. This makes sense to do some things that are surely happening. For example, you could set the tempo in here. So let's set quite high tempo. And now we set the individual playback probabilities to lower values. You can push and turn the data encoder to speed up your inputs. So I'm creating playback probabilities of only 10% for all of the follow-up patterns. And this is the end of the song. This one we wouldn't need to adjust to probability 10% as there is nothing set in here. Let's play it. What we would expect is basically each of these patterns are played back only with a given percentage. It could be that the song ends directly after I push start, or only one or two of those patterns are played. Let's test it out. So we have jumped basically only to the last pattern. This was the drum track. When I go again, this will be different. So that means you can create LoopA songs that are not predictable in any way. Now let's have a look at the jump option. Jump gives us the possibility to jump at the end of the pattern to any given pattern number. So when we are at the end of the song in the last pattern and we jump back right to the start, this would create an endless loop. To make things a bit more complex, what we could create is basically an exit pattern. Let's reduce the playback probability even more to only 5%, and then set a jump value that's below the end of the song. So this will surely jump out and end the song. So what we would expect now is basically to loop this song a few times, and at some point this pattern is reached and played back, and then it will jump out and the song will end. I might have to stop playback because it could take quite a bit of time until we reach the exit pattern. Let's have a listen. So we have looped over once. We have skipped all of them, so we're playing this again. And again. Now we're playing back the drum pattern. Now we're playing back the second pattern. Still not reached the exit pattern. We're playing this one again. We skipped all of the other three. And again. Drums again, and again. Let's increase the probabilities so that we will reach an end point. Let's go up to 70%, and you can do this live while the song is playing back. You can always modify it, and now we have reached the end condition. What I also wanted to show you, let's reset this to 10, is the pattern queue function. So what this does basically, let's go back to 100% probabilities. This makes it a bit easier. What queuing does is basically you can schedule a pattern to be played back when song mode is being played. So let's have a look. When we start at the first pattern, you can start at any point, but let's start at the first pattern. You can go to any other column and then push the scene button and it says queue pattern 4, and then it jumps to that pattern 4. And then I can queue the pattern 2, which is the next one, and it will jump to the second pattern, and we can queue the first pattern. And this works independent of probabilities. like this, I can basically jump to any position in the song and repeat parts of the song. Let's speak about a few tools that are built into Song Mode. So first of all, we have copy and paste functionality. When your cursor is in the pattern column and you push the copy key, you can just move down and paste, and the full pattern is pasted. Like this, you could easily duplicate song patterns. Same goes with the delete button. When you delete the patterns, it will basically remove all of the patterns. What you can also do is you can copy and paste individual values. So if you have a BPM setting that you want to copy, just go with your cursor into this grid. Tempo has been copied, and paste it in different columns, and this works. You can also delete individual columns and reset them basically to their defaults. Another thing that is very interesting is basically you can transfer the current LoopA state to the pattern you're currently editing. This makes it easy to create a song because you go back to the normal LoopA screen, play back your song pattern, how it should sound like, and then just go into Song Mode and push delete twice when your cursor is in the pattern column, and then it will transcribe all of the clip settings. The clip settings are basically the same that are shown in your clip map. You just push and hold the scene button and it says track 1 is in scene A, 2 in A, 3 in A, 4 is in B, 5 in A and 6 is in A. And this basically, the state can be transferred to a song mode pattern just by pushing delete twice quickly. So this allows you to build your songs a lot faster. Let's check out force to scale support in Song Mode. Song Mode allows to set different scales and scale roots for every pattern. We will experiment with our piano pattern, and we just copy and paste this a few times because that's basically the only pattern, the only clip that we want to play back. Let's have a listen. So this is our original pattern. Note that in Song Mode you can always exit Song Mode and go to any different page, normal LoopA page, and even record, do everything that you could do in the normal LoopA screens. And here I want to enable force to scale mode for this piano roll. You see it's already sounding a bit different. I stopped Song Mode and we are going back to Song Mode to configure our different scales. So let's just use a pentatonic scale in D for the first pattern. Then let's do a Lydian in F for the second, an Arabian in G for the third, and delete our other patterns and have a listen. This sounds definitely different. This is now the Lydian pattern. So that is one way to basically change the same sequences into different harmonies, into different sequences. Another way that's also interesting is basically to use our Beatloop mode to change the playback order of notes. So let's try this out with Beatloop mode of -5 and +3 and have a listen how this changes basically the song and note structure. Have a look. This is the original with the force to scale. Now this jumps around wildly with Beatloop mode. The patterns have the same length, but they will sound completely different. So this is a nice way, without recording new clips, of changing your song contents. Enjoy! Let's speak about LoopA's new session white keys mode. You see I've enabled it. I've chosen the FTS scale, Foster scale of melodic minor in C, which is quite difficult to play. It has some strange black keys that are in there, but with FTS white keys mode, this gets incredibly easy to play. Let's just have a look and see how this will work. I will just go to the piano track and enable Forster scale mode. Forster scale mode is on. Now I don't even need to record anything. As long as my track is being forwarded, forward is on, all of my keyboard inputs go directly to the synthesizer. So let's play C minor with white keys mode. Let's have a listen. I don't have to do anything more. I don't have to play any black keys, and LoopA takes care of every double notes that might otherwise be mapped in the previous Foster scale mode. So it gets really easy to play something in a very difficult scale. LoopA has over 160 scales, so let's jam a bit. Enjoy! LoopA now has tap tempo support. That means you can go to the tempo screen and have this last command, tap tempo, which will basically tap in the tempo that you require in your song. And you can also map this command to the foot switch port on the back, so you could have a foot switch to tap in the tempo. Let's have a listen. I have to push tap tempo a few times before it has reliably measured the tempo. So let's try this. And now I'm changing the tempo live. When I go faster, the tempo is adjusted and you see the tempo value printed on screen.